You know, I talk about doing these deer chores every month, and a lot of times I'm just going through what we're doing on the property. And I hope that matches a lot of you out there for things you want to do on your property. And you can use it as a guide to kind of generalize. A lot of things are generalized so that you can apply them to your own. And I start to make a list, and I start thinking about what we're doing. Like Dylan added planting trees. You know, we're trying to get the trees in the ground the end of May. I think we're going to, or end of April. But they might spill over into May. And there's various things we have to do with our food plots coming up, but a really big food plot as far as planting buckwheat, and that summer crop comes in June. So does planting corn. That's usually early June for us, for Brandon from First Choice Food Plots. He comes over and plants that. So there's a lot of things we're doing on top of everything else that we do and what I list here. But these are some of the nitty gritties to what we're doing, and I hope you can follow along and apply it to yourself too. Early stands finish. And what do I mean by that? I mean, we have a lot of areas where we're getting in and creating new waterhole locations, new access roads, and therefore new stand locations. Maybe stand locations we hadn't thought of before, or now we have a road we can get into a backside of a bedding area more cleanly, easily in the morning without spooking deer. We're putting those stand locations in. So once we get these new areas established, and a lot of times we're doing that first thing in the spring, then I want to get a stand up. I want to enjoy, this is done, let's get out of here, and we'll come back when we need to. A lot of other stand locations that we're adding, it might be in a transition area. It might be in a edge of a hardwoods where it meets some cuttings. There's a pinch point there where thick cover narrows down into just a thick strand, goes across a bench. Maybe it's the edge of a swamp. Maybe some open hardwoods. Like we have a stand to move. I'm thinking right now that Dylan and I were just at, so we call the Beaver. We're going to move that stand about 25 yards, a better angle and a better approach where we can come in on a bench. We spook fewer deer that way. And it's a little bit better angle from where we get a clean downwind for where we're in that stand and potentially spook fewer deer. It's also a good tree too. It's a little cluster of trees. So we'll have good cover there. We don't need to do that. I could do that. Our season opens in middle of September. I'd feel comfortable doing that Labor Day weekend because we can get in there. We don't even have to get near the stand. It's an open timber. There's no shooting lanes to clear. We can just throw the stand up and get it done. Really, really low impact. But a lot of our other areas, we're in there disturbing new water holes, new roads. So when we're doing all that commotion anyways, I want to match commotion with commotion. We're throwing up the stand, and then we just probably won't visit a lot of those areas again. We'll throw a camera on it, a mock scrape, and we're good to go. And then we can see what's using that during the summer. We get a better pattern. A lot of those stands that are existing, we might move or add in a certain area where we've seen movement before. We already know what to expect, but some of these new areas we want to observe, watch, let them soak. And we'll go back in there and some of those wet morning stand locations, the end of October for the first time. Nice toe-numbing morning, and that's part of the exciting. Some of these chores I just need to get done because it all affects a better hunting season. Doesn't matter if it's scouting relating, tree stand related, food plot, switchgrass, habitat, whatever it is, chainsawing during the wintertime. It's not that I don't enjoy doing this stuff. It's just I'm checking off the boxes for ultimately what I love to do, which is hunt whitetails. You know, I probably wouldn't do most of these things, if not almost all of them, if I didn't hunt. You know, that's what it's all about. I want a deer hunt. But I love the enjoyable process all year long. It gives me something to do. But when it comes to the stand stuff and deer hunting and strategy, that's number one in my mind because I'm thinking towards fall, and I hope you are too. Planting buckwheat. Planting buckwheat in May. When do you plant buckwheat? We actually plant buckwheat in June for our normal crop rotations where we have a buckwheat smother crop during the summertime. Probably the best smother crop summer blend that you can plant for improving the soil, limiting weeds. It's the only smother crop. It's the only one you can crush without you don't need an expensive crimper, anything like that. You can roll it. We use a Packer Max. We can roll it right over with our Packer Max called the Packer. ATV tires, tractor tires, car tires. It just rolls right over and flattens immediately. Great smother crop. Great soil builder. Limits erosion. Actually holds moisture to the ground like a greenhouse effect. So there's a lot of really good uses for buckwheat, and I haven't really found anything that comes close to matching that. We have a summer soil builder. Buckwheat is more of a timing thing. We put buckwheat down. We want it around here on good soil to grow for about 6 to 7 weeks. I don't want it to grow 10 weeks because I don't want it to be 5, 6 feet high. It can become problematic to take care of and almost too thick. In another area where you have poor soil, you might want to put it 9 to 10 weeks, which would put you into the end of May. But you have to be concerned with your last frost date. When I was in the UP in Michigan, my last frost date, a lot of times it was after Memorial Day. We had snow in July. I lost a buckwheat crop in July because of that before. We had freezing temperatures. So you have to be concerned with your last frost date in locations like that, even with poor soil where you want to grow longer, even if you're going to be planting it end of July in an area like that, because you have earlier frost too. The bottom line is here, I'm talking about buckwheat in May because we have Jared out there right now, and he's creating a new food plot for us. It's a new hunting plot. It's a strip plot. It relates to a water hole, a larger holding plot we call the hermit plot, and then it's along the edge, the upper edge of a bedding area down below that we've cut and created over many years. And I'm really excited about this. We're adding about 200 red cedars in that location, switchgrass. We already have gray dogwood thickets and briars. It's a really cool location, and we can just get right into an afternoon setup. Watch that thin, narrow food source, have a mock scrape down there, see what's using it. And I can't wait to use that. And one of the first things I'll do is, I don't care if that buckwheat's going to be there for a long time. And what I'll probably do is I'm going to come up with something that I can plant, because we're going to plant a base of clover. I love peas because peas you can plant early. I love light oats because it helps hold the soil. We can have that clover base. I could throw some beans in there if I want. Again, these are planted sometime in July. So we might only let that buckwheat, if we plant it mid-May to third week of May, go for 2 months, which would be eight weeks. But then we'd smash it, kill it, seed it. We'd be able to control weeds on it. We'd get a control of weeds in about 3 weeks. That's why I kind of say about a month from now, third week of May, we'll put that buckwheat down in a location like that. We'll have buckwheat growing in the dozer tracks in rows back and forth. And I've done that in the UP many years ago. That buckwheat will be that first initial crop. We'll get one good spraying in of 2,4-D and Roundup, maybe just Roundup, but we'll get a good spraying in. Then we'll get the buckwheat. Then we'll weed control after the buckwheat. We'll get our fall crop planted, which will be a hybrid of probably something similar to our dual threat 365 with brassica and clover. I'll add a little bit of clover. I'll cut that down so there's not as much brassica. I'll add some peas to it, and we'll get that out there. That'll be maybe a new mix in the future, but I love to experiment. But the bottom line is I want fresh, young green, and it's all going to start with that buckwheat. Now, third, get rid of the brassica. What do I mean by that? Well, we had a very warm winter. We didn't have the snow covering that we normally do. Now, some of you are saying, get rid of the buckwheat. My deer ate it down to the ground in October, November. There's nothing there. But for others of us, where we had a good crop going into the wintertime and the deer ravaged it, but there's still appreciable buckwheat or a brassica that wasn't killed, that brassica is growing now and it's starting to flower out. It'll form into seed, and there'll be 1,000 times more seed than you want on there. It'll be extremely thick. It'll come down in end of May, middle of May, June, and that's a very, very bad thing. You'll have seed upon seed. It'll keep growing. It adds to your seed bank, and it's a very bad thing. So you want to, if you can't spray it right away, at least mow it, cut those flowers. Well, once those flowers dry out and it turns to seed, then you're in trouble, because it's far too much. It chokes out everything else. You have to kill it repeatedly over and over again. So really watch for that in your area. If you have brassica at whatever blend you're planting, if there's still brassica left that's green and flowering out, and get rid of it right now. So we're going to put this out in early May, and I hope some of it hasn't gone to seed for you, but we're taking care of ours right now, and it's April 22nd. So really keep an eye on that. 2,4-D and Gly, 1 pint, 2 quarts. What we're using that for, it's that perfect time for our switchgrass, where we already sprayed simazine, and we'll probably hit it with 2,4-D and Roundup here in a little bit, probably towards May 1st, and we'll probably hit it again later in May. So it'll be about 4 weeks apart, but a lot of those sprayings are either right early May, end of April, end of May, but May is key for getting that second spraying of chemical on your switchgrass, so that you can have a great crop of switchgrass that you don't have to touch for a decade or more. So do a lot to take care of it to begin with, and it'll take care of you for decades. You just need very little maintenance going forward, and follow the steps for switchgrass planting that we talk about in this channel. I've had some really good one is easy switchgrass recipe. That was a recent video out within the last 3 weeks. It's probably early April, I would guess, end of March. Make sure you check that out. But that's that time. I can't wait to get rid of some weeds. They're growing really well right now. Kestrel boxes. I didn't mention this in our April deer chores. We had just done those, but we had Joel and Noah come out, and we had telephone poles that we got put into the ground. Noah has a service where he has heavy equipment, and he helped us get in those with a grapple bucket, and Joel's a lineman, so he climbed up the pole, and we got the kestrel boxes in, and good friend Colin, his dad Chuck, and Colin made those boxes for us. Chuck even signed them. So we put 2 boxes up. That's all we need on a property like this. Kestrels they have had rapidly shrinking populations over the last couple decades, and they're America's smallest falcon or hawk, if you look at it that way. They really key on grasshoppers, moles, voles, mice, anything else I missed. Oh, snakes still. And that was a big selling point for Jen, was that they eat snakes, especially young ones. But there's probably some other things in their diet too I'm missing, Dylan. But I would imagine moths and anything else that they can catch.
They're pretty crafty.
Yeah, I've seen some pictures online of them devouring a mouse, regurgitating the tail, and then taking it right back down again. They're pretty brutal. So a savage beast in a small package about the size of a blue jay. But we put some kestrel boxes up for them. They're about, I would say, a little over a half mile apart. There's a huge draw in between with the woods, and so a separate breeding population. And it'll be really cool. We have kestrels on the property. They're on the power lines already right now, and we're just that's one more species on the property we're trying to take care of and have a healthy population of, and that's something we do right now. They're actually nesting, so I don't know if they're nesting in the boxes yet, but we finished that a couple weeks ago, and really cool opportunity to help some wildlife out you normally don't think of. Shooting bow. We're just making sure we shoot bow all year round. I'll probably have that on every deer choy. I'm sorry. We'll skip over that really quick. What I'm finding at my age is even if I just shoot 10 arrows 5 times a week, it just gets my joints and my arms loosened up so I don't have those pops and creaks. My shoulder doesn't ache as much, and it feels really good to shoot. And so I'm finding that, like I use the baseball example, where when I played baseball in high school, where I'd start throwing before everyone else we had indoor practice in gym. I would actually start throwing from my knees in the basement at the couch. Ball would roll back. I'd just throw it 100 times, just soft tossing, get my arm loosened up. And I'm finding the older I get with archery, I need to do that. I still feel really good shooting my bow. I feel really strong and confident. But a lot of that has to do with just a little bit of shooting here and there. Will actually ramp up a lot the closer we get to the season. But for right now, just a little bit goes a long ways. A lot of people think, oh boy, I got to go shoot a bunch of arrows, 30, 40 arrows. I don't have time for that right now, so I don't do it. I used to shoot bags under my target at 10 feet. I put lots of little dots with markers on there. I'd use an indoor scope with a small, so those dots look really big, and I'd try to hit each dot I was aiming at. Or I'd play the arrow game where the arrow's actually hitting below where I'm aiming. So I'd shoot my arrow at a dot, and the next one I'm shooting at the nock. Then the nock below that, then the nock below that, and you just get a even stair step of arrows, a perfect half-inch apart, going right down in a line. And you're focusing more on making your shot, your mechanics, but also keeping loose. So don't let that you can only shoot 10 feet or 5 feet be an excuse. That's certainly far enough to actually keep good practice and create good practice habits. And you really need to keep on that. And then shooting turkeys. We love turkey hunting. So we have our blinds right now. We have decoys, and I'm going to get out. Jen shot a turkey. That was the first bird she actually called in on her own, so she was very proud of that. I dropped her off, and she went out, sat, I think it was in the high 20s, 30 degrees, froze her rear end off, sat in a puddle of water in the chair, and ended up calling a turkey. She actually sent me a text that said, I can't believe it, I think I did it. I had a turkey respond or gobble, and one was actually coming into her, and she shot it at like 10 yards, maybe even less. So very proud of her. That was a pretty cool moment. We love to turkey hunt, but really we're taking advantage of all the habitat work we're doing. Dylan and I sat out. We didn't shoot one this morning, but we heard some toms, some good gobbles. But really cool is that we went to a spot where it's a favorite roosting area, and I saw a bunch of birds go towards that area last night. And sure enough, they all came out, and it was 7 jakes and a hen. So 7 jakes is pretty cool because we keep building. We had a little brat pack of 9 jakes last year, and now we're seeing 2-year-old toms and older birds all over the place. We have 7 more just in that little flock, let alone all the other ones on the property. So our turkey population continues to explode at a time where they talk about shrinking turkey populations. It all has to do simply with habitat. That's really what it boils down to. You give them good habitat, you'll have a roller coaster of highs and peaks and valleys, but at the same time you can always go up, or at least maintain a healthy population if you work on your habitat, which is part of why we do these deer chores. We love working on the habitat all year long, but it's always gearing us up for the hunt, whether it's turkeys, deer. We might even have a pheasant hunt someday because we hear roosters all over the place. We're seeing grouse all over the place. So rabbits have been here, and we keep adding to those. But a lot of fun in the whitetail and wildlife woods, and I hope these deer chores, especially this May, a lot of fun stuff to do to keep you on track for what we all love to do, which is just simply hunt. Guys, it's food plot time, and I really urge you to check out our food plot company, Pure Wildlife Blends. It's called Pure for a reason. I invite you to check it out. We have food plot blends for all types, and we try to give you all this content on YouTube, articles on the site to help you make sure you not only do it right, plant it right, but you pick the right seed blend for your circumstances.